You alright? My name's Paul, I've got autism, and I make random videos based on my version of autism, the way my head works, and I stick the videos on the internet just in case you fancy giving them a watch. And I hope you're doing alright. Now, I can't make a video called Accepting That You're Autistic without giving a few caveats to that. So obviously autism is an individual difference per individual. Not only that, our upbringing, the environment people were around, adversity, attitude, temperament, all makes a world of difference. You know, so this is not going to be a one-size-fits-all type of answer. All I can do is talk personally. Hope it makes a bit of sense, and we get to a point. But if it does clash with you, that's allowed. We're allowed different perspectives. It doesn't mean we have to fall out. We can still crack on and be friends just because we've got different mindsets. So, I didn't accept I was autistic when I was initially diagnosed. I was angry because the reason I ended up through the door of a specialist in the first place was because I'd hit a wall of constantly being misread, misunderstood, people not appreciating what I was actually saying, people not appreciating what I was actually doing, constantly taking me out of perspective, and it just got tiring. A lifetime of it. And I know 34 isn't a lifetime when I was initially diagnosed, but it's long enough to live lives. You know, it's long enough to live different careers. It's long enough to have loved and lost again. It's enough, you know. 34, I had a couple of mates who were married and divorced with kids at that age. So it was still a lifetime, even if I wasn't in my 60s, for example. But I ended up through the door because I had an employer who couldn't see what I could see. And I was letting him know what the future would look like. We were in a company that was folding. We were going under because our advertisement was crap. We didn't have a website that worked at a time when you needed a website. And he wanted me to cold call. And I can't. And I was just simply letting him know that if he gave me 100 people to cold call, he will get a 0% return on how many people want the business. Whereas if he gives those same 100 people to Claire, for example, she would get a few of those people to sign up to a new contract. But he heard, I don't want to do it. I'm not going to help. I don't care the company's going under. Well, what I was actually saying is, I'm trying to help you by saying I shouldn't do this task because it will not bear fruit. I'm not your guy for this. I was looking out for the right reasons, and the right reasons weren't heard by him. Now that is the story of my life. I'm always trying to look out for the right reasons. I'm always trying to look out for the right people for the right reasons. I'll always try and future-proof. But if I can see 10 steps ahead, I'm usually dealing with people who can only see 1 or 2 steps ahead. And what's frustrating is when it finally does go all the way along, and what I said would happen does happen, I'll say, I told you that was going to happen. And they go, no, you didn't. So it's like you have to live, like record everything you say and do just to prove yourself. So every single time in my history where I've had this friction or this tension or whatever, it's always been because I've just wanted the right thing to be done. But people just think, they take it personally. And that's the problem. He took it personally because I wouldn't help the company in its time of need. The reality was that I was helping the company in its time of need. But anyway. But that was like the last time I was willing to put up with this nonsense because it happened with nearly every employer, every friend, every scenario and situation. I always tried to help because what I was saying was accurate. It was right. It wasn't personal belief or opinion. It was, this is the better outcome. Even if it's 1% better, I'll still dig my heels in and go, actually, we should do this. We should try this. This is better. Come on. But other people don't. And that's how I ended up in front of a GP. That's how I ended up with a referral. That's how I ended up in front of a specialist. That's how I ended up with an autism diagnosis, because me and this boss would have come to blows in the end, because we would be in an office during this period. He would be shouting so loud that the walls and the doors and the windows would shake in this meeting room that we had. And I'd be stood up, because if you want to speak to me like an idiot, bad things are going to happen, you know? But the thing is, I didn't want it to come to blows. I wanted my job. I enjoyed my job. I enjoyed working for that company. I was as loyal as a Labrador, severely underpaid, heavily overworked, but I tried to do everything possible, you know? I just wasn't willing to do the thing that would have bear no fruit. If only you'd have listened. But then I didn't accept I was autistic, because the reason that led me down that path wasn't overly useful. It's not like I was just a touch different amongst friends and family, and it was like, why don't you send yourself to the doctors and see where you end up? I didn't have that, you know. I had to mask from a very early age, raised in a rough area. You know, you can't have vulnerability in those types of situations, because then you're like a lamb to the slaughter. You're surrounded by lions. You get chewed up. So there was never the attempt for, you know, being vulnerable back then. Whereas I can be vulnerable now because I don't rely on another living soul. So I'll do what I want. You know, I look after me. I'll crack on the way I want to. Thank you very much. And that's a big part of accepting you're autistic, but hopefully I'll get to that. So, you know, there was never a chance for me to be identified, to be picked up and, you know, diagnosed any earlier than when I actually was, really. And, you know, then come the diagnosis, didn't accept it because I was annoyed because I was now going to be seen for my disability and not my ability. I was annoyed that there was this term, like as if I was the problem. Like I had to be diagnosed with something because I'm the one who doesn't fit in with everybody else. But you can put a flower in a pot of dirt surrounded by weeds. Just because there's only one flower, it doesn't mean it's the wrong thing, you know? It's just, I've always been in environments where people will go for a quick fix than put the detail in. I've always been in scenarios where people think they know more than they do, where people's egos matter more than their output. Now, that's not autism's fault, that's their fault. But because I don't align with any of that, and because the politics of it doesn't work for me, then I'm seen as the bad guy because everyone's playing the same game. The problem with it all is, all right, I got the diagnosis and then I went to YouTube. I looked for people to listen to and tell me their stories, and not many men share stories on YouTube. It's more TV style. There are a couple of all right ones. I'm a big fan of Autistic, Not Alien, which Neil hosts because he will share genuine stories. There's a lot more female autistic creators than there are male on YouTube, and I related more to them because I was trying to learn about autism once I'd been diagnosed, because I didn't know a thing about it. And all was well when I was watching, you know, some of these videos until they talked about female issues, and not being a female, I couldn't relate. And that's how ultimately I ended up making a few podcasts, and then I made videos and tried to figure it out as I've gone along. And it's been more useful than doing anything else because obviously comments help when you get to see the level. You get to learn by your peers. So that helped, you know. So what I would say in sort of the acceptance of autism, there's a big thing that it's like the biggest red flag that gets me. So within comments, like if you were to go to my video, the late autism diagnosis video, on the Dark Side of Autism series that I did, you'll read a lot of people who say things like, I'm 67, I was married. I had 4 kids and my own business. Now I live in this tiny little hovel in a horrible area. I've got nobody. My kids don't see me. I've got no friends. Autism ruined my life. No, it didn't. And you want to know why it didn't? Because you were married with 4 kids and had your own business and had your own house. You were also autistic then. You were autistic when you met your wife. You were autistic when you became a father. You can't just get all the way down the line, then blame autism because you're still different. You were always different, and this is the biggest red flag of autism for me. Autism is only used as an excuse or a reason for negativity because we've got poor media representation with false versions of autism out there. We've got terrible TV shows where they show a type of autism that I've never seen half the time. News articles, when somebody does something wrong, it's like, oh, they're also autistic. It's like, what's that got to do with it? You know, why don't you announce which hand they use when they write? Why is autism important in this story? Because it's always like, oh, this person did that. They're autistic. So anybody who doesn't know anything about autism starts to build a false perception of it based off idiot ideas to include it in news articles. You know, unless that's the absolute defined reason for something happening, then leave it out because it's as irrelevant as, you know, which hand they use. You know, it's just, or whether they're colourblind or not. It's just not important because it's a difference. It's not a reason. Autism is a difference, not a reason. Yeah, I'll try and remember that. That absolutely sits well with me. Because obviously I never know what I'm saying until it falls out my face. So I hate the false representation because it gives people a false belief in what they think autism is. And then when they do get diagnosed, they'll blame their life choices on the fact that they're autistic, or not even their life choices. It might be somebody else's life choice, which has led to their unfortunate situation. And then it's, I hate autism. If it was autism, it'd be all of us. Now, this is where the key comes to try to understand autism. Try to accept it. Like I've said, you don't. When I was looking and I was watching more females than males on the internet, you know, it's not common for someone who makes videos to tell you to go and watch other people. But I would strongly urge people who are trying to find acceptance for their own autism, first of all, it's not a bad thing. Make peace with that. Autism is not a bad thing. It is a difference. Make peace with that. Because until you do, the rest of what you do will be utterly irrelevant. Because you've got to ask yourself, where does my negative perception of autism come from? What have I seen? What have I heard? Who have I been around? Because it's come from somewhere, otherwise you wouldn't have a negative perception of what autism is. You also can't use your life as the example because that's just your life. It's not my life. It's not the life of other people I know. Make peace with the fact that there actually isn't anything wrong with autism by default. When you do that, we can do the rest. But then when you get to places like YouTube, don't just watch one person. Find a few. Even if you just dip in and out every now and again, it's better to hear perspectives, to see what people are saying, because what you'll find is you'll see who's just trying to sell their merch, who's trying to sell their courses, who's saying things that have been scripted by ChatGPT, and then you'll hear people sharing real stories and trying to figure it out along the way. And you'll start to eliminate by design. Don't just pick someone and go, you're my person. They can be your person, but you need a few others around as well, because otherwise you just develop that one track. And I believe, which again, it's all personal perspective, which is the whole point. If you listen to a lot, you start to find commonality and you're looking for the common the common point that they're trying to make. And then you apply yourself to that common point to see how it fits for you. So it's so much better to try and listen to multiple people than one. If you read blogs, read more than one person's. If you follow a company, follow more than one company because a lot of companies have got very strong agendas, and autism isn't about an agenda. It's about a difference that we hopefully can all move forward with acceptance one day. So if people are arguing over terminology, language, and which logo to use, find someone who's actually talking about autism, because that's pointless. So that's one big bit of advice I would give you if you're trying to accept that you're autistic. You know, there is absolutely nothing wrong with being autistic. Like, you take today, for example, you know, because a lot of autistic people want a normal life, and they talk about meeting a partner, having kids, having a house, having this job, and it's all very lovely in the mind to think if that's what you want. But a lot of people walk a path of life that actually isn't of their design, and they'll stay on it because they feel it's more of a comfortable place to be because it's societally accepted. Well, if society doesn't accept me because I don't want what they want, then balls to them. I couldn't care less what they want. If they don't care about my wants, then I don't care about theirs. But I'm not going to do something that I don't want to do to appease other people who, when I close my door at night, aren't thinking about me. You know, so your normal life has to be your version of normal life. Now, I did a full video of why I don't have children. Best decision I ever made, and it always will be. But I have people telling me who don't even know me, oh no, your life would be much more enriched if you had children. I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about the child. The child's life wouldn't have been as amazing as it should be. Every kid should have the best life on earth. Their imagination to run wild. I wouldn't have been able to give a kid that. You know, and I you know, a perfect example is I am so tired today because I'm going through an insomnia patch. I'd be useless for a kid today, you know? So I didn't want kids. I didn't want to get married. So guess what? I didn't. But do you know what people ask all the time? Oh, are you married? Have you got kids? No. Oh, how come? Because I didn't want to. Oh, all right. Well, I've got 4 kids, and it's like, great. You know, so long as people don't care, it doesn't matter. But it's that you feel forced to partake because people don't want to accept difference. But you should never do anything you don't want to do just because you feel forced. You should live the life you want, because when you start doing that, when I made me more important than I used to make everybody else, I did all right. My life got better. Things improved. I moved area. I changed jobs. And I got better because I stopped supporting everybody else. And now I don't know any of those people who I used to support anymore. They've never checked in on me and made sure I'm all right. But I am, because I stopped being someone for everyone else and became that someone for me. That's important, that you live your version of a normal life rather than the one that you think society wants. That is very, very important. So if you don't want to go to events, you know, a good example of that is I've got a cousin who's getting married next year, I think. I don't know him. You know, I don't have any ill will to him. He's a stranger to me. I've met him maybe 4 times in my entire life. Oh, sorry, his entire life, because he's younger than me. And now he's getting married. But I've not met him, and I think the last time I saw him, he was about 3. Now he's probably nearly 30. So they're having a small, intimate wedding to which I've been invited. So I've got an older cousin and a cousin who's just... So we're like a year apart. But then there's 3 younger cousins as well. So us 3 have been invited. I haven't spoken to the other 2 cousins for about 10 years. I've never spoken to the 3 younger ones, really. Now, when the invitation has arrived, and I've said, no, thank you, I'll be seen as bad. My uncle's going to text me and say, why aren't you coming? It's a small, intimate affair. The least you could do is come. That's all to come. That's still going to happen. But again, it's that when I was talking about work and being able to foresee and actually wanting things for all the right reasons, no one can see it. So the reason I'm denying going to the wedding is, 1, is because I want to live an authentic life for me. And my authentic life despises events. It's not about the people or the event itself. It's just a lot of people in one place, or I have to spend a day doing something where I'm like a voyeur. I'm watching people get married. Well, why do I need to do that? They can do it without me there. So it's not something I'm comfortable doing. The second reason is because it's a small, intimate affair, and me and this cousin don't know each other. Surely there's someone who's much more deserving of that seat than me. He might have a really good friend who just might have missed the mark by one because he's making space for family because his mum and dad have told him he has to. Well, now he doesn't. Now he can fill the space with a friend. But instead, I'll be seen the other way around. I'll be seen as I just haven't got an interest in family and I don't want to go to the event. But that's because I'm living authentically, because I know I don't enjoy the events. My autism doesn't enjoy events. It's the stimuli. It's the, yes, we're related, but really you are all strangers. It's the small talk. It's the amount of time that you're there. People want you to pose for pictures. Everything I can't stand. But because I've taken the time to learn me and my autism, it's not happening because I deserve me. I deserve to do what I want as well as what everybody else wants. And that's fine. Because you do have to lean into your autism. You have to accept that the way you want to live is okay. You have to actually learn about your boundaries with autism. You don't do things that, like people, like you're not going to find me stood in the middle of a dance floor with the music blasting, the strobes blaring, smelly people surrounding me dancing and moving away. Because I'm not going to enjoy that. But a lot of younger people fear that they're going to miss out if they don't go clubbing. Well, you wouldn't put a blindfold on and cross the road either. So, if there's something in you that says there are all these avenues that I will not enjoy, you're not missing out by not doing it. There's lots of things in life you just won't do too. It's just because that path of life exists, and I really want people to understand that the path to accepting you're autistic is to accept it's not a bad thing and live authentically to your true design. So long as you are being legal, consensual, respectful, you treat others how you want to be treated, and you wouldn't do to others things you wouldn't want done to yourself, then you live however you want. And then it's to stop seeing autism as a bad thing. It's to see it as what it is. A difference. That's it. Simply a difference. We pick up what others drop. We see things others don't see. Because that's what a difference is. It's the alternative to what's already there. It doesn't make it bad. It just makes it different. And you have to appreciate and lean into your autism. Like I said, you take today. It's a Saturday. The worst thing about my day is I've got to go to the shop and buy some cat food because I underestimated how many I had left, and now I've got to go to the shop on a Saturday. But I'm not going now. It's 12 o'clock. It'll be busy. Car parks will be full. No, I'll wait until it's probably 7 o'clock, a bit later on. Shops will be really quiet. I can just go straight to Sainsbury's, grab one of the Zapper guns, have my noise-cancelling headphones on, pick up a cat food, zap it, go through the self-checkout and come home. It'll also be quiet on the roads because everybody's kind of at home for the evening or they're out on the town so they don't take a car. You've just got to do things true to your design. It doesn't stifle you, it frees you. Knowing that there is nothing wrong with autism, living true to your design, and accepting that just because your design is different to others, it doesn't make it a bad thing. And if you don't do things in the order other people want to do, you still get it done. Where's the problem? And like I said, I will reiterate that point of if you, in your 50s, 60s, whatever, and you've lost everything and you now blame it on autism, it isn't autism's fault because you were born autistic. And it brought you all of those things too. If we try to live fake, the mask will fall off. If we try to behave a way that everybody else wants us to behave and it doesn't feel true to us, and there we are at all these events getting bored, you don't get your recharge. And if you don't appreciate why you need to recharge, you will never get to the point where you can relax. And if you don't get to relax, then you just go and go and go until you hit a chronic level of burnout. That's what makes people break down. That's what will make people's relationships break down. And then when they're in chronic burnout and depressed and see they haven't got anything left because they were too busy doing everything else for everyone else, because they never took the time to appreciate there's nothing wrong with autism and live true to their design, well, then they're going to blame autism. And it's not autism's fault, honestly. Invest in your hobbies, invest in your interests. If you work, learn your legal rights in work, because you are protected. It's very important that you remain protected. Trust in yourself, just because you might be the only one saying something different. A lot of people want to say something different to win, but you can win dirty and you can cheat to win. Whereas we want a lot of things because it's just the right thing to do. We aim for accuracy. If you can prove if you've got your accuracy, stick to your guns. Don't be the person other people want you to be. Because the best way to accept your autism is to accept yourself. I'm not going to think of autism once today until I need to go to the shops. Because the way I live is fine for me, because I took my time to pay attention to that. I'm not a statistic. I'm not falling into a piece of research that was done about autism. I'm just going to live authentically to my life. And I'll try and enjoy what I can of it. I leave the house, I'm in a world that I clash with. But that's because they clash with me. I want us all to get on, but I have to mask because they don't accept me. And I've said it before, but we accept everyone and their difference, and we mask for everybody. But for us to have it in return, the Equality Act 2010 needed to be created to force people to be nice to us. There's nothing wrong with being autistic. Once you realise that, it sets you off on your path for acceptance. Live authentic, live true, look after yourself, find your own path of life, indulge in your hobbies, take the time to recharge. You'll do well. That's what I had to do. And it's nearly been 10 years since I was diagnosed, and I'm still on the path to try and get it right. And I'll probably spend the rest of my life doing so, but that's the point, isn't it? We have to learn as we go along, because we're never going to win. But we can get somewhere comfy. Anyway, gonna go. But I hope it made sense. And until next time, my friends, thank you very much for watching, and keep smiling.